Hey, Picasso's freestyle. Let's do it. Hey, eating couple wings with a couple kings. They're my favorite things. Hey, hey. That's all I got. I'm not a good freestyle rapper.
Wait, hold on. Wait for a second.
Folks, don't worry if you're not a good freestyle rapper. Just go ahead and order that Picasso's pizza. But let's face it, when we're talking about food, a lot of us are still digesting from last week. And speaking of digesting 2 huge episodes to premiere Hawkeye from last week. And we are on to episode 3 this week. So let's get our pros in here. Let's get our analysts in here. Of course, as always, we've got the Micah man, Jake Micah, and we've got Mr. Hollywood Boulevard himself, Joe Casale. Gents, how are we doing this fine Hawkeye hump day is what I think what we're going to go with.
Hawkeye hump day, okay. Doing good. I mean, come on. It's, waking up to a brand new Marvel property, Hawkeye, starting off strong with last week. I mean, this really is turning into an insane show, and I can't wait to talk about it with you guys. Very, some surprises and overall just fun. I just really had fun with it. It's really promising to be, such a, Marvel, so to speak, show of the MCU.
I'm still loving Hawkeye Hump Day. I think we would say Marvel Wednesdays and Marvel Wednesdays are great, but Hawkeye Hump Day takes the cake. Me and Sally talking last week. I said this has been my favorite 2 installments, I think, of any show so far. Like, just overall, I don't know about like specifically those 2 episodes, but just the feel and the vibe of the show, and it really kept going in this episode. And this was just a fun episode the whole way through. So I'm excited to get into it with you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this episode named Echoes for a number of reasons, for a number of things that occur in the episode's themes and actions. Hopefully we don't have any echoes on this broadcast, and let's get into it. So we start out right where we left off. Hilarious scene with them on the kids' little, what were those, the ponies? You got Hawkeye on the pony. They're being made fun of. And just a great sequence out the gate. What was your thoughts overall on the action, Casale, as they were trying to escape a toy store?
Well, it was a abandoned KB Toys.
Oh my God, KB Toys
was, which come on, that's throwback. Wow. I remember going to that store all the time, as a kid. But I mean, yeah, right off the gate, you could tell, the detail of their action sequences, what they're trying to set up within, this show, that kind of echo of what we've seen in the past. It was just great and all fun. And, it's always fun to see what kind of, stuff Hawkeye has under his sleeve, his kind of tricks and stuff. Because, every time the average person, always thinks of Hawkeye, it's always like, oh, he's just a guy with an arrow. Like, he's not the Hulk, he's not Cap, but he really knows, what he can do with his skills. He's been with S.H.I.E.L.D. for so long. So he really has, a lot of tricks under his belt. And also, again, showing off, the beauty of Kate Bishop. And, we've still, this is the 3rd time around that we're getting, to know her and stuff. And already she's becoming a promising asset to the team. So, top notch all the way, it's just, and it's only the beginning, which is so exciting. But I love me some action, Marvel action sequences for sure.
You guys think that I'm really the biggest thing of the early, at least of the show, is do you think that tracksuit mafia member like got back to his girlfriend? Do you think that they're okay now? Like I was genuinely concerned for him. He was like, listen, I get this work is important and everything, but I got bigger fish to fry today.
Oh yeah, the Imagine Dragons guy, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That guy? Yeah. I don't know. Who knows? Hopefully.
Imagine Dragons guy.
Yes, Imagine Dragons guy. And I mean, imagine you're just like Daniel Platzman, the drum kit guy for Imagine Dragons. Let's say you're a huge Marvel fan, you're suiting up, you're like, oh, can't wait to watch this episode. And boom, your band is just getting roasted right out of the gate. But I love the sequence. Obviously, shocker here. A Marvel Avenger escapes from captivity, obviously, as Hawkeye is running around the KB Toys. We'll get into the spoilers of episode 3, folks, so strap in here. But let's, it's very interesting because when he's running around the KB Toys, absolutely benefits from the fact that they're in more of a capture mode right there than a kill him, because they could have easily shot him multiple times, but he's running on top of the toy decks. And then finally, he's duking it out with what seems to be our new antagonist.
Yes. Echo, which, we even got in the very beginning, kind of like a pre-introduction to what she was all about. She's deaf and all that stuff. And we kind of get introduced to her character, her father in the very beginning, like she had a close connection to her family, possible uncle, to see who could that be. But, a great introduction for sure, to see what she's all about. I'm not too familiar with Echo, but I know I this is only the beginning with this character. Marvel has already announced a lot of stuff that they want to really use with this character. So it was very, very great indeed. I'm sure Jake, you probably know a lot more of that character from the comics for sure.
Yeah, I think we touched on it a little bit last week. Echo is honestly someone that I'm not as familiar with, but from what I mean, the connections to Hawkeye and especially Ronin. Echo was the first Ronin in the comics before our boy Clint Barton decided to put on the Ronin costume. So I don't know if that's going to come into play or anything right now. Clearly, I think she has more of just a vendetta with Ronin for interfering with whatever and whoever's business, like you said, the uncle, whatever business she is getting. We can get to those. Yeah, we can get to those later on, whatever that speculation. But Echo, I think it was an awesome, I love when they do, because they have to explain so many characters coming in on these shows, especially. There's not time to give everybody an origin episode. There's obviously not time in the movies to give everybody. But that little 5 minutes, 6 minutes, hot cold open to that episode with Echo and just showing just the main points of what we need to know about her upbringing and how she got to here. It was so well done, so put together. You don't need anything else to understand her motivation and where she's coming from. It did such a good job. It was succinct, but it was really good. Got you a lot of information. And then, we get to the fight scene and everything, and seeing her, get to go to work and just realizing how much of a badass she actually is. She's taken it to an Avenger. That's as great of an introduction as you can get, right? For two
talk about going over.
Exactly. She went over strong on that one. So it was a fun start to the show. And like you said, we're gonna speculate a little bit probably late. I'm gonna speculate later on Echo's involvement in this. But safe to say she's gonna be incredibly vital to whatever is happening in this story and stories going forward. And I think it was an awesome introduction to really see her in action.
And that's been really I know, and there's a couple points I want to make here, but that's a great thing to say, because that's been the claim to fame for a couple of these series, right? What impact are what we're seeing in these limited series going to have in the bigger MCU? And it seems like there are a lot of implications there. I had 2 notes from this early fight. I got no pow right in the kisser. It's a kick right in the hearing aid. Is Hawkeye that was hysterically ironic, as she just literally nailed his hearing aid. And you know what? They're lovable guys. I almost feel bad for them. Tracksuit Mafia is almost constantly down very, very bad. But you know what? They're hanging around there. They're underdogs. So that's super exciting. And then, of course, it's no challenge for them to escape, but they decide not to go with the challenger. And as we talked in our pre-show, I know we'll get into obviously the lineage of Ronin and a couple of other things that occurred in the episodes, but one that really dominated, I'd have to say, would be the sequence with the car and obviously the trick arrows. Let's face it. When they said there's no such thing as trick arrows a couple episodes ago, or whether it was 2 or 1, you just knew that couldn't be the case, Casale.
Yeah, no, and this is why I love the attention to detail that all these, the movies and the series have because they clearly show that, this is a lived-in universe and the Avengers are a true team, that they do work together and help each other out in ways that we didn't even see coming, because, there's a lot of tech that Hawkeye uses that he is, haven't had help from, in the past. And we've got this, in the past, like in Age of Ultron, Captain America had some upgrades that was made by Tony Stark, and so it's kind of cool that, this is, we lived in this lived-in universe where this team really works together. this whole sequence on its own is just beautiful. I love me a good car chase, you know, whether it's the Fast and the Furious stuff or like, you know, just like Bourne, you know, like the true to force, like action stuff. Even like Winter Soldier had such a great car chase action sequence. So to just have it again, you know, on the small screen is just, you know, it was very cinematic and just so much fun to see them fight and them kind of, this also just, again, the whole series, the whole point is also building the relationship, you know, between Hawkeye and Kate Bishop. So and having these small scenes, even though it's such on a grand scale, you know, it truly shows like how great they are and how well they're building. So, you know what, I take all I can get at this point, and again, it shows because it was just so much fun, you know, them trying to get away and them kind of bantering like, oh, okay, like I gotta drive. No, you can't drive. I'm gonna shoot. And it also, you know, it was a great chance for Hawkeye to truly, you know, see like what Kate Bishop was capable of and using the trick arrows and all that stuff to stop them. So it was just so much so much fun, you know. It's just, this is, you know, Marvel at its finest, absolutely.
Has there ever been another car chase scene in anything with bow and arrow? I don't know. This might be like a groundbreaking moment. I don't know if we ever had a cinematic or television moment of a car chase with a bow and arrow, and it didn't disappoint. I'm with you on your car chases, Casali. Always a sucker for a good car chase.
Mm-hmm.
You throw in an archer in there using arrow. First of all, what is his organization system? Like Clinton just know, like I want to know if they've got like different looks on them or something. Like he needs them. She's like, I have no idea.
I would try and keep it. I would try and keep it like a golf bag. Like I would try and keep my 7 through 9 iron in one area. But it seemed like he just had the whole like pencil case, like of everything. Just, you know, it was ridiculous.
And I mean, I guess, you know, you want to be ready for every situation. So like, I understand he's very prepared, but it just seemed like seems like you could make a pretty easy mistake if he's trying to use that putty arrow, and instead accidentally uses one of these other the explosion arrow or which one was your favorite one, Maniac or whichever one? Like, which one did you enjoy the most that we saw in this?
I mean, with its effectiveness and obviously it's, you know, splendor to see, I have to go with the putty arrow. I mean, she calls it the Play-Doh arrow out of the gate, and I really like that. But with that said, I mean, the putty arrow just seemed like it was doing work, seemed like it was unstoppable. Get your enemy in a little bit of mush, and you're done, Joe. Because Ellie, which one did you have?
Oh, my favorite was, I mean, is this a spoiler if I go into it? But
Casali, just spoil it.
Okay, I love the Pym arrow, of course. That was amazing. Yep. And that kind of, you know, was kind of what I was saying before was how, you know, the team really utilizes each other's help and design their tech and whatnot. Because obviously, whether it was from Hank, you know, or you know, Scott, you know, how far he's gone into working with Pym Tech. So having the arrows in line where he was able to shoot them. And it was a great kind of like callback too, because, you know, obviously the famous, you know, shot in Civil War when Ant-Man was on top of the arrow of Hawkeye and you know, shot up, and that's how he, you know, joined the fight, you know, is just always iconic. And that was obviously from the comics too. So kind of like a little, you know, coy callback. That was just so great where he just shot it at the arrow. And again, it showed their teamwork where she shot it up and he aimed for it. And then it just, you know, it went bit like, oh man, that was just pure entertainment right there. I love that so much.
It was, and you know, that it was such an interesting scene to begin with too, because we're starting off and you could tell like Clint did not trust her at all to be shooting these arrows, right? Like he was like, he's like, I would much rather let this 22-year-old drive in a car chase than let her shoot the arrows.
My favorite part is that he can't see her shooting the arrows and he can't hear her shooting the arrows. Yeah. So he has no clue what's going on. He's basically just driving.
Oh, just absolutely. Their whole banter. Well, go on, yeah. Well, I was saying, like, yeah, their whole banter throughout the whole thing was just so, you know, interesting because he couldn't hear at all what was going on, but she was still talking to him like he could. So it was kind of like, you know, like who's working with who right here. That was what was so much fun too.
And she kept doing it. Like she could not fathom that he could not hear anything at all. Like she was just the whole time through just talking.
Oh,
Like
man.
this man has no idea what's going on right now. Driving deaf, that's crazy. Like that's the craziest thing I think that happened. You can't hear and you're in a car. Like, oh man.
I guess if you're gonna drive deaf, you might as well be in like a chase scene throwing caution to the wind, because you're really not worrying about people ever honking at you. You're not worried about
you're already on edge right there.
So they survive, spoiler alert, they survive their chase with Tracksuit Mafia. Great escape, classic Hawkeye, jumping backwards off of a platform. What did we think about, and that was kind of the climax of this episode, right? Would it be fair to say? I mean, again, there was a lot of action after, but it was falling action. Honestly, it was the discussion with Hawkeye's family.
Yeah,
it was them eating in the diner.
I felt like this episode was kind of cool because it kind of played backwards. It was all the meaty stuff was in the beginning, and then it kind of eased its way out to further in the story. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they chose that kind of limit. I mean, I guess that's the beauty of having a show as opposed to a movie, is you could reinvent yourself. So that was fun.
Actually was. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like after we just went through What If, where there were like 3 to 4 episodes that were the darkest timelines possible in the Marvel universe, whether it was Strange Supreme, whether it was, Captain Carter having to leave Steve in the past, things like that. It's kind of nice to have like a happy-go-lucky Christmas like theme. Obviously, I mean, no one's pleased that, Clint is missing the movie marathon. By the way, Clint's Bay is so ride or die. I really just love her. Whether it's in Age of Ultron, I've always supported your avenging, or basically just does not question one bit that this guy is not going to be home for Christmas after he told the kids that. She goes, oh, well, it's fine. Just go take care of business or whatever. So gotta love that he has that foundation. And maybe that's one of his superpowers, is having that family foundation, because let's face it, a lot of other Avengers don't have that.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I mean, that even though I like that aspect, like in Age of Ultron when they introduced his family and he was able to take them to a safe haven. I think at some points it kind of got a little okay, what is going on with the Joss Whedon dialogue? You could tell he's just kind of phoning it in because the movie itself was just killing him and he just didn't want to do it anymore or whatnot. But again, I think what they built upon, and I mean, especially it shows, in the end game with, the loss of his family and getting them back, it was always great to, see them pop up. And that's what, again, he's the human, of it. And I think that the aspect of him, with, losing his hearing throughout, because obviously that shows that he's human. He, through all those battles and being next to bombs and all that stuff, he lost his hearing. And it shows, he's really the human side of the Avengers. And as much as people always say it's always Hawkeye, he doesn't have powers, like I said before, it does show his humanity. And I think, what Jeremy Renner has done with the character in the movies and in the show, it seems, to be working. He really brings a humanity to the team.
By the way,
this is a world with Thanos. It's crazy.
Thanos was right. He's reading on the urinal in the episode. By the way, all due respect to Laura, I didn't mean to just label her Hawkeye's babe, but sometimes you just got to label people the way they are in the episode.
Oh no, yeah, kind of Linda Carlini,
Okay, so with that said, gents, we get down to the final 5 to 7 minutes. Give me your thoughts on this falling action of the episode. I know we have 1 or 2 more things we want to get into, and ultimately, what has every episode kind of ended with a cliffhanger where we zoom in on one person interacting with another?
I don't know. I mean, to me, that was, I don't even want to say it was jarring. I was just, because I was hooked. This was also a short episode. I mean, we had 2 back-to-back last week, and they kind of flowed into each other very well. This one was kind of, it was a little bit oh crap. So once that ending came, I was like, wait, what? No. And, obviously we got to wait till next week to see. But, I mean, it's exciting. There's always a way to do a cliffhanger, whether it's a little bit,
Truth be told, whether it was Loki, Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision, What If, these episodes have a way that when that like rising music happens at the end or whatever, you know, it's you're like no, and that really shows that they're doing a good job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very true. So yeah, at the end of this episode, I mean, we kind of got, like we said, that humanizing element of Clint talking to his son, and it was really a really nice.
Broke my heart.
And it was a really nice moment with him and Kate, though. Like really nice, like
to
show
it worked
their
both
connection.
ways. It worked both
Absolutely.
ways.
Yeah, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting more and more worried about the fate of our guy Hawkeye, which is the more and more that they sell. Like, what I know, that's a big thing to drop, right?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that because there's a lot that they're importing into this universe.
You can't not
for
think
Hawkeye
about
right
that.
now.
Yeah,
exactly. And they keep saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna make it home. I'm gonna make it home." It's like I don't know. Marvel hasn't done that a lot. They haven't really just given you that. I guess that's a lie. They kind of have done it a couple times, but this would be one of them. And so I'm very wary about that. But it was great to see the relationship between him and Kate. That kind of I think solidified they were there together. They had that little conversation afterwards. After they got at the little diner or wherever they were eating, and she's like, "We're in this together." So I think seeing them cohesive, still going to be odd couple, whatever the heck's going to happen. Like he's just tired of her shit. I'm really interested to see when she actually is going to like let him know about like what happened to her in her youth and why she like because he tells her like I'm not a role model at all. Like in that moment,
they were
she
kind of building
like,
to
bro,
it. Yeah.
It's like
I saw you fighting aliens. Like, what do you
watch
mean?
somebody dominate in the Super Bowl and they go for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. You're like, wow, I was like there when you dominated the Super Bowl. I was there when you jumped up on the North South Tower like it took out 3 Chitauri to defend New York City. I mean, come on, how do you not bring that up?
Yeah, you think that wouldn't slip under the table. But let's talk about the very ending, the cliffhanger.
Yep, my guy Jock.
Our guy Jock. Now, Maniac, you weren't here with us last week. We went into a little bit of his story.
Yep.
So I can run it back again for everybody. If whoever missed this, watching this now, listening to this. He is Clint Barton's mentor in the comics, as the man named the Sword Master. There's another character at that circus that they are all together named Trickshot, who kind of takes Clint under his wing afterwards, teaches him how to use the arrows, obviously Trickshot, whatever. They take down our boy Jacques after he is stealing money from the circus, which stealing money from a circus, like you couldn't find a better place to steal money from. You're going to have all these swords and everything, whatever though. So the major point of me bringing that back up is that they clearly have a history in the comic books together established from Clint's youth. So the fact that this ends on a cliffhanger in the first moment where they kind of lock eyes, even though it's a very intense moment, obviously, but where they kind of lock eyes, that's got to be like, I'm expecting, we were talking about the cold opens. I brought that up. Next week, is it just going to be, maybe young Clint Barton and we get to see kind of like the real origin of how he came to be, and maybe that connection with our boy Jacques is kind of explored a little bit more. I'm very interested to see how much they're going to go into more of like the history of Hawkeye with the rest of this show too.
Yeah, I like that idea. Well, because that too, like obviously, Marvel is just, always world building and trying to introduce characters. Is it sad to say that they're always just trying to set up the next thing? But not entirely. This is also Hawkeye's show. So I would love that. That's if true. They kind of really delve into like what was Hawkeye about. Like, I don't think we're going to get any Budapest stuff between him and Natasha. But but like true origins of him, I think that would be great. I would be here for that. Absolutely.
That's for the go ahead.
No, and I just wanted to say, Marvel typically, I don't know if I would say they copy their own structure sometimes, but they do love when things line up in a way, even if between different series, different characters. In Loki episode 4, we got the cold open, which was Sylvie being abducted by the TVA. It'd be very similar to get some background on Hawkeye here. So very interested to see if that happens.
That's true.
And the other thing I want to mention, Casale, you mentioned it in passing earlier, the uncle of Echo. We heard that voice at the beginning of the episode.
Oh my God.
That didn't sound a little bit like our man Vincent D'Onofrio. Tell me that laugh and everything didn't sound a little bit like it.
I mean, come on, obviously we're all getting excited for No Way Home to see what's happened. I hope you had luck getting your tickets. everybody, because it was, it was a pain in the butt. And luckily I got 9 of them. But yeah, I mean, come on, like that's all we want. I adore the Netflix stuff, and I just always loved it. And Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin and stuff that he did in that show was just fantastic. And the billion of him. So I mean, again, like who's to say? I remember hearing a lot of stuff in the past before this show came out. A lot of people were speculating, is this a proper way to introduce them? Or like, because that too. Like, I mean, with rumors of Daredevil showing up in No Way Home and all that stuff, and because I think they have the ability to now like use the rights and stuff, or I don't know how that works. But come on, I love me some Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. He was great. He's great, in everything. Like I really enjoy him as an actor. So to see what he could do with this kind of storytelling, I mean, would just be, like that's just come on, that makes me so excited. Once I heard his voice, I literally was like, I moved up. I was like, no way, like that's what we're here for, and that's what's just so exciting. So to see them pull it off would really be something.
I honestly didn't even realize it until I watched like the first 20 minutes here, and then my brother and dad came home. They started watching, so I just waited for them and then went and finished it. And they're like, "Did you hear his voice at the beginning?"
Oh
I was
yeah,
like,
as soon as he laughed or whatever he did, I heard it. I was like, "Oh my god, imagine!" Because even like his hands, like that's all we saw was like his hands, and it seemed like a big presence.
Big
so
dude,
holy crap.
I'm just saying, Hawkeye Clint made that little passing comment about this. The guy ahead of Echo is always trying to make moves. We're about to have chaos in New York City in No Way Home, and in the Marvel comics for the last 3 years, about Kingpin has been the mayor of New York City, which is just absolutely berserk to begin with. But big city getting destroyed. Multiversal action coming down.
Yeah,
I could see that there's a power structure that's setting up for our guy to slide back in and kind of cause some havoc for our New York.
And then Ben Daredevil saves the day. Right?
Yes, that's what. Yes,
he's got a better
multiverse.
Chance. He's got a better chance coming through the multiverse in No Way Home as Batman than he does as Daredevil.
No. When he was Daredevil,
that might be happening soon.
Of course. No, I get it. Hey, folks, let's face it. Appreciate you for checking into this power structure we got here on What's Trainwreck Watching, breaking down Hawkeye episode 3. Huge shout out to our correspondents, Mr. Hollywood Casali Files and the Micah man, Jake Micah. We are signing off for now, but hey, over the next week, make sure you don't get any car chases. If you want to give your dog some pizza, that's okay. And if you want to listen to some Imagine Dragons, that's okay too. We got Free Money Football coming up shortly live here, so don't go anywhere. But again, huge kudos to our What's Trainwreck Watching staff. Go have a good rest of your Hawkeye hump day, because here at What's Trainwreck Watching, it's always about one thing, and that is next week.